Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the LeadForward Summit 2026. My name is Anika Totalbagi, and I'll be your session moderator for this session. I'm a volunteer in the Mentoring Club, and we're thrilled to have you join us for this exciting event dedicated to honoring leaders in motion on purpose. Some housekeeping rules. The chat is disabled, so we all get to focus on the speaker's stories. Please put your questions into the Q&A section. We will review them and direct them to our speakers later. Depending on the time, we can ask you to enable your audio to ask your questions to the panelists. The session now is Beyond the Spotlight, Coaching Journeys from Stage, Field, and Office to Entrepreneurship. Now, to guide us through this discussion, I'd like to introduce our panel speakers and panel moderator. Panel speakers, Naj Sargozo, Ted Haas, Lisa Gallia, Brian Gonsolin, and our panel moderator, Laurie Creever. Laurie, the floor is yours to invite our speakers for their introductions.
Wonderful. Thank you. And welcome, everyone. I am moderating from beautiful, very snowy Minneapolis, Minnesota in the USA. And yes, I would love to get started hearing from each one of our panelists. And I will go in the order that I see you on my screen. So maybe just take a minute or two to tell us about you. And then subsequently, we'll talk about how the mentoring arrangement came together. But right now, we would just love to meet you. Let's start with Lisa, and including tell us where you are.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lisa Gallia. I'm a disruptive alchemist, and I am lucky to live in the rainforest in northern New South Wales, Australia. So I think it's one of the best places in the world, and it's pretty fun and exciting because I'm from London originally, so there's surprise and delight every day, really, with all the weird and wonderful things that go around here, but it's a wonderful space. My mission is to give leaders the tools and skills that they need for solution-seeking communication. And when I talk about inclusive, I really think my daughter has got autism, so that has sort of shaped a lot of my journey. And I don't just mean no inclusive in terms of neurocomplex. I will think age generational inclusivity. I think to solve problems and make good decisions, we need communication that's from inclusive groups. So that is what I'm really focused on now in the next half of my career, really. I feel like I'm just starting again. So it's an exciting new adventure.
That's beautiful. Thank you and welcome. Let's go next to Brian. Tell us about yourself, what you're up to.
Okay, my name is Brian A.C. Gonsolin. I'm originally from Southern California, but now I'm in Oakland, California. And right now I'm in my school campus. So I'm a cinema major at San Francisco State. I've served 26 years on an 83-year life sentence. And now my mission is to go back inside of institutions and try to help heal some people, and make a safer society. In addition to that, I want to heal people out here in society because after my incarceration, I came home and I seen it was despair out here. So I'm going to bring some light to society that's really really struggling. So that's just a little bit about me.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, I see Ted.
Well, I am Ted Haas. I'm Brian's friend. I live here in San Jose, California. And man, boy, the rainforests of Australia. That sounds exciting. Okay, we'll have our next conference there in person. I am a social entrepreneur, and I'm the founder of a nonprofit and the CEO called Innovate. And our purpose is to end systemic poverty. And we believe in collaboration and getting all the people that are doing amazing work together to collaborate, because like particularly in the Bay Area, where we're trying to prove that out, the Bay Area and California prove out a new approach. California, Silicon Valley is the one of the wealthiest places in the world. We're a $4 trillion economy. If California was a state, we would be the fourth largest. If we were a nation, we'd be the fourth largest economy, which is incredible. But we're also a leader in every indicator of social of poverty. We're a leader in mass incarceration, human trafficking, unequal access to justice. So, and we spend a lot of money on it. But how is it that we have so much wealth? We've innovated, we've solved problems. I mean, here we are, we're communicating across the world, but we can't solve the world's most important problems, which is how we treat each other. Well, we believe we're going to combine that innovation and the problems that matter most and create a world without prison recidivism, without human trafficking. So that's what I do. I've also been in and out of prison the last 18 years, but as a volunteer. I play basketball. If you see me in person, you'll notice not only am I bald, I'm also quite tall. And yeah, that's how I ended up meeting Brian, playing basketball in prison. And we've built a long-term relationship. It's been over a decade we've been walking together.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you. And to round out our panel, Naj, tell us about yourself.
Hi, thank you. And nice hearing all your inspiring stories. So I'm Nat Zaragoza and I am based here in Manila, Philippines. How I describe myself, I'm a buzz coach, buzz.co. So it's a brand marketing inspired by Lisa because she's the expert fan when I saw her in one of those pandemic and at that time we're up, the what we're dealing with the pandemic, and I was really trying to find some support outside from the usual social media platforms. So that's why I went to Clubhouse and I met amazing people, mentors, the mentoring club. So that's how I got through the mentoring club, and we started our peer mentoring sessions. So happy because I've been seeing a lot of growth, uh, not just with our business, because we were able to pivot our business and was able to save and not really close it. So that is how important mentoring to me is. So it's like what I just said with Lisa in our Monday session. It was like a therapy, much much better therapy for me. I didn't have to go through to a therapist, because it was really
That's great. Lisa, why don't you, Naj tipped us off that the two of you met through the mentoring club. So can you tell us from your perspective the story of how the two of you found one another and also how the relationship evolved? If it started out more traditional, this person's the mentor, this person's the protege, what has taken place as you both have grown the relationship?
I think I really always have considered Naj someone. I love all my mentees and consider that I'm really a peer mentor with all of them. So that relationship, we met on Clubhouse, which was just a wonderful space when there was a lot of people struggling in the world and didn't have connection. And I think both of us love hearts and we both love joy. And we started getting more involved with the mentoring club. And we really just clicked with some people when you have shared values. So people say it takes a long time to make friends and to connect. But I think when you have those shared values, it doesn't take time. Some people you just click with. And I suggested we had a peer mentoring relationship because she knows a lot more about social media than I do. And that's why it's so useful to be friends with young humans. And now really our Monday evenings, it's a forward momentum thing for both of us. I always feel that it's beneficial. So we really do enjoy them. I think, and we talk sometimes a bit too long, but we have learned a lot about each other and ourselves through those meetings.
Wonderful. Thank you. How about let's hear from Brian, your perspective. How did you and Ted form a mentoring relationship? And then how do you see that it is evolving?
Well, I didn't see myself as a mentor. It's something that just happened. Initially, when he first told me about this, and he said that I have kind of changed his perspective on things. Just from I had the privilege of leading a basketball program while I was inside, and in leading this basketball program, I would be kind of like the person that come in and welcome everybody to when they come inside. And every Saturday or once a month, they would come down the hill, and I would just speak from the heart and try to let people appreciate small things that they take for granted. And I remember saying one thing that I would always say was that, people don't appreciate the small things, and I would use this analogy about being stuck in traffic. Right at the time, I had 83 years to life, and I never thought I was going home. And so I would say, you need to appreciate these small things, because I would do anything to be in traffic, right?
Absolutely.
Anything. And so I guess that resonated, not just with Ted, it resonated with a lot of people. And they would look at things a little differently than they was before. And so I think that that kind of transpired and made our relationship really good. But the thing that really made our relationship what it was that um I went up for resentencing, and in my court, right, I had 5 people show up for me in court, and Ted was one of them. Right. And Ted and Bill and another person was really close. And that meant a lot to me. That showed that um, the person who I was making some type of impact on people. And it wasn't something that I went out to try to do. So,
Well, Brian, one of the themes, as you know, of our panel is really like transcendence and professionally moving way beyond where you were before. And your trajectory clearly is very real and very dramatic, to go from incarceration to recreating and continuously creating this bold, fresh life, free in school. It's so inspiring and exciting. So, Ted, can you look back on what really sparked this connection between the two of you that made you say, I need to invest in this relationship? We need to partner up. We're going to learn some
Well, it's
walk together. I heard you say.
Yeah, we have this basketball program called Prison Sports Ministries that I'm just a volunteer of it. I love playing basketball, so that was the hook. And the guy, one of our mutual friends who organized it, literally had to drag me in to go into prison the first time 19 years ago. And he was recruiting me because I was younger then, and I was quite a ringer. So I'm still a ringer, just not at the same level.
I think it's called a baller, right? A basketball term, someone who's really good with
Yeah,
the
yeah,
ball.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, it finally gets me to go in, and it's just a life-changing experience because it's the exact opposite of what you experience, of what you expect. You expect these guys to be harsh. You expect, you're gonna have to be on eggshells. If you throw an elbow, a fight's about to break out. You're thinking, we're, hardest place you've ever played, and it's the exact opposite. It's the funnest place. I mean, they play really, really hard. It's very, very competitive, but just there's so much love. There's so much respect. It's like literally playing with my brother. We try to kill each other, but we were just, love. There was love, and it's so close. And then that's this mind shift, and you come in and you start to realize, man, I'm getting more than I'm giving by far.
Mm.
Um, And yeah, Brian's leadership skills just stuck out to me, like he was sharing that. We would it's a faith-based group, so at halftime we'd share stories, we'd pray together, and he felt after a while like we need to take the next step, and the guys from the outside are sharing, but we've got stories inside, and I want these guys to start sharing themselves too. So he led by example. And we're in the yard. Like this play that like we're playing a game, but it's not like a little rec game. There's a huge crowd there, and everyone's watching, and we're in the middle of the yard, and the prison is still, it's changed tons, but it's still, kind of a little bit segregated, and we're right in the middle of all of that. And Brian says, well, I got to lead by example. And he shares his whole story. If you want to hear more about him, we have a podcast called the Innovate Podcast, and you can just listen. He shares his whole story. And I'm sitting there and I go, boy, that takes guts, because, you're being very, very vulnerable in front of the whole prison. And he's just sharing everything. It's very inspiring. I go, man, that is courageous leadership. It took me a while to really reflect on that, because initially you think he's talking to you, but you realize he's not just talking to you. He's talking to the whole yard, everybody. And that was one experience that's like that. But, his resentencing, that was incredible experience. So we had the privilege, and there was at least half a dozen people who drove up to be there. Of that, we had the privilege to go be there in person, and then there was 30 plus people who waited 3 hours on Zoom to talk to the judge for 3 minutes, and they addressed his childhood trauma. Like when I heard his story, and it's like, we also do with our nonprofit, we do a lot of work with victims, the victims of human trafficking and all that. But you go back to their childhood and you see the trauma, and it's so similar. The victims and the perpetrators, and society wants to, make one the heroes, one the bad people, and life is just so much more complex than that. I'm like, yeah. Man, boy, what he went through. And he had shared that in the middle of the yard. I'm like, he's telling everybody that happened to him. But then at the sentencing, like lots of things stuck out at me. But one of the things that stuck out at me is he had at least half a dozen, it seemed like a dozen young men who came on, out of their schedule, take time out of their work. They all referred to him as Uncle B. And they said, Uncle B is the reason I decided to turn my life around and stop being a thug. And not only that, he mentored me and he equipped me. And at least half of the guys were working in the field that he had equipped them in, because he's learned, he's quite a talented filmmaker, storyteller. He's won an Emmy. So how many people do you know have won an Emmy? He won an Emmy for a piece he produced while he was incarcerated, working with the Warriors media team. It's incredible. And these guys are, this is Sharon, and here they are. They're out. They're successfully out. It's like, man, what leadership can come? We think this is the problem, but if out of the problem can come this incredible level of leadership, that was very, very moving. One of the most profound spiritual experiences of my life, to be honest. The judge is holding back tears. So we're like, okay, I think he's got a pretty good shot at being resentenced and let out, and here you go. So when he got out, I'm like, Brian, I need you on my team, and I think the best role for you is on my board as an advisor.
I can only imagine the bounty of vital perspectives that Brian is bringing to this board all the time. I was thinking about this morning how it really is true. Maybe some of you have heard this, that your culture is your values, your behaviors, your beliefs. And each one of us, our culture, it's like a fish swimming in water. The fish has no idea they're in water. They're just swimming in it. And that's how our childhood and growing up years are. We don't in any way have like really cognizance of our values and beliefs behave, because it's just how we're raised, how we're treated, our role models. And so to do courageous work later as an adult, to completely unpack and re-examine and share about that, and Brian, to influence others. I mean, as Ted was talking, I was thinking you're like a ripple, like a pebble in a pond, but like a really powerful pebble that's rippling out. So let's hear from Naj. Tell us a little bit more about, I love this, that you say sometimes it feels like your conversations, though they're peer mentoring, they feel a little bit like therapy, which I think is A-okay, because I love to see, I ran a formal mentor program for about a dozen years. About 900 people went through the program, different cultures, different countries. It was in a multinational corporation. But I always tried to set things up so that there would be what I consider to be an alchemy of deep sharing in the mentoring arrangement between the two. And so, can you tell us a bit about, what might be some ingredients that others who are tuning in could bring into their mentoring partnership that creates that bond and that intimacy where you really feel like you can tell each other what's on your heart?
Before, I never saw myself as a leader, and it took me a while to like embrace, maybe because of the self-doubts that I have, because I grew up also in not emotionally safe environment. So I didn't see myself as a leader then. And but I know that I've always been fascinated with leaders. And I think that's what pulled me in. And um, and I think being around leaders, you just don't realize that you're also leader, right? You're self-leading yourself to have this relationship with them. So it was just like maybe 3 years that I somehow embody the leader in me. And this relationship with Lisa, because I'm very sensitive, like with people around me. Like I know when I feel safe to be myself. So it was number one factor for me when I choose a mentor or a leader or a boss, a client, that I can express myself. I can be vulnerable because I have my triggers, and I'm somehow honest, not somehow honest in a way that I am emotional. So it's very important to me that I'm safe with that person, that when these things happen, I can express, not judged. So
Yeah.
maybe that's the reason why I enjoy the peer mentoring sessions with Lisa, because most of the time it's really like you're talking to your best friend, your close friend, and that's what I love about
Yeah.
the peer mentoring relationship. Yeah.
I love this because listening to you right now makes me think it could just be exhausting to have to put up a facade. And so, what a treasure to have this relationship. It's professional, but it's also exchanging truth. Lisa, you seem to bring such willingness and passion to be involved with mentoring. And so I'm curious, do you have a standout experience for yourself where you had someone that mentored you and it really made such a big difference in your professional life, in your life?
I've in my last 5 or maybe 8 years, I have had mentors who've made a huge difference and I'm blessed to have in my life. But really in my early age, I think I wasn't brave enough to ask for help. So I don't feel like I really had those mentors early on in my career, but I do think that I think it's part of my nature. When I started and realized I did need to, I'd started making change one-on-one and I knew I wanted to amplify that. And one of the things I was afraid of was speaking, as we know, that's one of the top fears. So off I went to Toastmasters, and did my thing and started learning. And it was like, yep, okay, I'm on the level. And I went to their training and my mum was driving me there and I'm like, this is just the most amazing training that's so like it's almost free. And they were teaching me such amazing leadership skills. There was people who cared. It was a safe space. And my mum and I was like, it's so cool to learn all this leadership stuff. And my mum said, you've always been a leader, Lisa. From when you went to school at 4 years old, I had parents calling me up saying how you were helping their children. So it was like almost a surprise to me. And, I did, and I looked and now I have done a little bit more self-reflection. I always end up being the leader. It's obviously just part of who I am. I'm a bit bossy. And also I see potential in humans. And I just love watching them grow because it really gives me so much joy and I do nothing. All I do is help talking to them and share with them. They take action and I get to celebrate. It's actually like double dopamine for me. And really, I'm doing one of my favorite things, which is talking. So it's pretty easy for me. I really just get so much joy. I think sometimes my life, all of us, we've been through different journeys. And I think when you have seen two sides of a coin, it also gives you so much more perspective on sharing and the privilege that you have when you get into another position.
Yeah.
So
That is beautiful. And I'm hearing from two completely different people, literally located on different ends of the planet, with both Lisa and Brian having not always this awareness of how much they were leading and inspiring and bringing safety and having a vision to others. So I'd be curious, Brian, what has been some of your experience serving on this nonprofit board? Because I'm just envisioning that they must just be absorbing all of what you have to say. It just seems like it would be so valuable. But tell us from your experience what that's like to be on the board and be working with Ted in that capacity.
Well, I don't think it's something hard to do. I just show up and be who I am. And I usually talk about my experiences and just be genuine. Kind of like what Lisa said, it's just what she do. She talk for she like talking and she's bossy. So being on the board is he always encouraged me to do different things and to show up in different places. And initially, I want to say that I was kind of out of my comfort zone at times, but once I'm there, I'm like it's just like anything else. It's like riding a bike. So it's been a privilege to be able to give my opinion on things and give my perspective.
Exactly.
I always bring my perspective to whatever the situation is, and I really like to poke holes in stuff, right? Try to make things better. If that's the only way you're gonna get the best product.
Yeah.
So that's been my experience.
Yeah. And I'm thinking that likely something else that you're able to bring, which is so valuable, is being able to see when someone has an idea that looks like this is going to work just great, that you can be someone on the board who helps to look at, well, what might be unintended consequences? What might
Hmm.
be a ripple effect that actually is counter to what we're trying to do? And so, like Ted said earlier, sometimes we want everything in life to be simple, but it's filled with complexities. And so it's good to have that richness of discussion. So, Ted, I'm curious, with you having been in pro sports, I heard a story on public radio. Gosh, it's been a while now, maybe a decade or so ago, that the Retired Players Association for the NBA, they started a mentor program for players that were going into retirement and still, of course, having a lot of living to do and a lot of work and professional life. And it just gave me so much empathy for what a huge transition that must be to go from that world to now, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So would you mind sharing with us, like, did you have a mentor that helped you to transition? I'm thinking it's almost like military, going into civilian life, out of pro sports.
So, I never made it to the NBA. I played in Europe for 2 years. The 2 years after I got out of college. I could have definitely benefited more from a mentor. Um, you're figuring a lot of things out on your own. Um, yeah, you have these certain perceptions. You think of a professional athlete as a certain level. That's very, very small percentage of them. Like, first of all the athletes in the world, it's like 0.001% ever play professionally. But of those, you know LeBron James and Curry and these other guys, or you think of the NBA, that's a small percentage of the players. There's only like 500 players in the entire NBA. Like, it's a ridiculously small amount of players. But there's so many more around there. There's a whole industry around there, a lot of other positions, a lot of other people, trying to get in and make it in. Um, and yeah, they're just humans. They're people. They're dealing with the same thing. I don't know the stat of NBA players, and it is a bit different with the NBA because it is such a small league. So the story of most players is they never make it to that level, you know. But in the NFL, like, another professional league, most, like the the security industry in Las Vegas is dominated by NFL players. So here's guys who, they're essentially millionaires. They've made a lot, money, even the average guy. But they get out, their career is super short. They get out, and then what are they doing with it? And it's yeah, the need for mentorship. I'm so glad that they're doing more and more of that to help them, when they're young, they don't know much, help them with financial literacy, how to plan for their future, help set them up and realize they're human beings, and you're really just young kids when you're at that stage. So, yeah, a lot of my journey, it feels like just figuring it out. And as soon as you, even as a parent, like, as soon as you figure that, as soon as you get good at it, it completely changes because your kids get older, and it's like it's like as soon as you figure it out, you're out of the game. It's like, okay, so the more we can learn from one another.
Yes, we're all improvising, figuring it out, putting one foot in front of the other. So, Naj, let's go back to you. And you were in a big career transition, which is what inspired you to find some type of mentoring arrangement. And so give us an example, because people that are tuning into this, and I think we touched on this already, it does require a little bit of courage to ask for help and get a mentor, whether it's a traditional mentor, where it's somebody who's super experienced and you emulate them and you want to learn from them, or we're hearing wonderful stories in this session about more of an egalitarian peer-to-peer mentoring. So now, Naj, I invite you to look back and tell us something that, wow, you can really see with how you are navigating your life and business that you wouldn't have figured that out
except for Lisa and having these wonderful discussions with her.
Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, actually, at that time, I have no other option but just to be honest with myself. Like, this is where we are. And I guess me telling my story of us going through the hardest, the lowest of our lowest, that I guess that made us realize that from there it's courage already. And that courage, I think, somehow led me to these wonderful people like Lisa and other mentors at the mentoring club. And I guess it's really self-awareness, and and me just sharing the the things that we're going through somehow, you know, gave me this opportunity to learn more about the journeys of other people, because that's really what I want to have. Like, am I the only one going through this shit?
Mm-hmm.
Or are there are there other people who are going through the same thing, that I'm not alone? So
Yeah.
I guess the first step was like knowing that I am not alone in this journey, made it like, the load a little bit uplifted. It's not gone, but somehow you feel like, okay, there's there's a little hope. And then you keep going to these rooms and listen to their stories, and just being inspired, and just taking notes of what they've done, to get to, like, the from point A to B, and they're ahead of me. And that's where I kind of um, realized that, oh, I need their help. So I went to Lisel and then said, like, Lisel, I want to be a mentee. Can I be a mentee? And then from then on, actually, the story is, um, I have also other mentors at the mentoring club at the time. And with mentors helping me with my mindset, because I was really negative, maybe because of what's happening. And then at the same time, like, how do I pivot? Because at that time, our businesses are all facing clients. So you could just imagine, like, how could we survive this when we don't have other option? So that's when I was trying to figure out another business. And during those mentoring sessions, I had an idea, and then checked my skills and what else can I do, and then was able to create new businesses. And then and in just like 3 months, we were able to close our first big pitch with a former president of a conglomerate here in the Philippines. So that was really like, wow, I we could we could have not done that without the mentors around me. And moving forward with building this is the virtual buzz. So it's a pandemic baby business. And so when I needed to go from level 1 to level 2, and that's when I got so interested with Lisa. Like what I said, I'm a super fan of Lisa, a quiet super fan, before I even met her at the mentoring club. So she helped me with brand positioning. She helped me with, like, because in business, you have a lot of competitors. Like, how do you stand out? How do you differentiate yourself? So that was the thing that she's been helping me with. And after, in this 1 year of peer mentoring sessions with her, um, we were able to, increase our revenue, and at the same time have that. And I could say that we have somehow the strong brand positioning already, and it's going from level 2 to level 3. So I mean, we really need mentors around us. We really need leaders who are, ahead of our journey and helping us to get from where we are to where they are. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a great point. It's very powerful to start to see ourselves in someone else, and it just helps to fuel that aspiration. And you also touched upon something that really is so interesting to me. And I'm hearing reports, and perhaps many of you are too, that many parts of the world, there are epidemics of loneliness. And hearing you, Naj, and so many of us it's not that long ago, what the impacts of COVID were to our life, our work life, our opportunities for revenue, all of that. Now we've got the emergence of AI. I mean, it just seems like there's always things that are being disruptive. And so that's another good reason to be in a mentoring arrangement is you're a resource for one another. And I find that very inspiring. So, Lisa, you had stated at the beginning that something that you were so intrigued by with Naj was that, did I hear this correctly? Naj has social media savvy. And so you were feeling like that would be fun to, chat with her and gain a little more savvy yourself. So tell us about how that has gone.
Well, it's fantastic for me because Nat has taken over my social media. And I couldn't ask to be more loved and to be able to trust someone who knows my goals, knows my story, who can, because I do have 5 businesses. I'm a busy human. I do mentoring in Papua New Guinea. And I've been, building AI, and I'm building a human operating system upgrade with AI. And I think that just to be able to have someone who I don't even need to worry when I see sometimes the post, to be honest, and the Valentine's Day post was fabulous, Natch. I love that she knows me so well and I can trust her without even checking what she does, that I know she's on my team. She wants me to shine just as much as I want her to shine.
Yeah.
So I don't think I could have anyone better for social media. So I really think sometimes we work to our strengths, and repetitive tasks are not my strength because I'm a disruptive alchemist. And Naj is way better than me at that thing. So the fact that we get to share together and then she gets information from that and take what is important. She even knows better, I think, than I do what is important to my audience. And shares that for me. And that is just a gift to have that trust. One thing I just wanted to add from our conversation before, I thought when you said about the loneliness and things in the world, which I do agree. And I think what mentoring gives us, whatever type of mentoring it is that belonging which humans need in every single situation. So when we get that belonging, mentoring is just a wonderful way, an organized way that we can make sure that happens for everybody. But, we all really need that as humans. And the pandemic did cause a lot of grief, a lot of sadness for people, and there's a lot of fear. And being able to connect to everyone and feel like you're not alone in this journey, I think makes all the difference with whatever you do. So, that connection is really the key word, and belonging is, just as we heard, Brian made that space for belonging, which I just love. I mean, one of my mentors is David Eagleman, who is works at the Center of Law and addresses a lot of neuroscience on prison incarcerated in America and that system. And for me, I've really worked with him a lot with creativity and how our brain works with creativity, and learning that of him has been a gift. Again, because of the pandemic, I got that opportunity because, I mean, I live in a rainforest, so how cool is that? I really love that what I've heard the story today is what I've believed. You know, people are doing the best they can with what they've got. And that always sometimes is pretty crap what they got given at the beginning. And we can make judgments or we can think about how we're going to change that, not just actually leave them with, you know, the things that sometimes that they weren't given in the first place. So I really love all the stories we've heard today. It just validates so much of what I've learned and what I do myself. So that's been a gift. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ted, what's on your heart? What are you hearing? What's percolating up for you on this beautiful topic of mentorship? I'm wondering, do you have one or two things that you consider perhaps are best practices when you approach being in this interchange and learning space?
You're talking about loneliness. I think there was a study that really hit me in San Francisco that the biggest need was loneliness. People just feel disconnected. Um, and here's what's on my heart, like COVID, for example, perspective, and Brian shares about that time where he said, he talked about being stuck in traffic and how he'd give anything to be stuck in traffic. And it was one of those, one of those things that just sticks with you. It's such a, little good imagery. So whenever I'm in traffic and I'm ready to get upset, I'm like, Brian's voice comes into my mind, and I can't be upset about being in traffic. That really played out during COVID because I turned 50 around that time, and we're stuck, and as far as our family, it was kind of, it was kind of a nice little window because my kids had all were halfway into empty nesting, and then they all came back in for COVID and they're happy. It's like they weren't resentful that they're still at home. So on that side, that was really good. But I was going through this phase of it also had to do with some physical injuries and stuff. I dislocated my ankle, and I had this huge revelation that the physical activity wasn't just important for my physical health, that it was absolutely necessary for my mental health. That, like, I was going to go crazy. I've probably been bipolar, subclinical bipolar my whole life, and I've never been diagnosed, but like, I'm a disruptor, so I'm up and I'm full of energy. But then I crash again, and I realize, oh, I've been self-medicating my whole life through the exercise and not really even realizing that I was doing it for my mental health. And when you're, getting into self-pity, I'm like, I think of Brian and all my other buddies who I missed, and like, wow, if it sucks for us, it really sucks for them. One of the worst outbreaks in globally was inside San Quentin prison, but whatever, no one's heard of it. So that's another thing you would get pissed off about. But anyways, in coming back in, what's the point? I'm and trying to make perspective and going back in and getting into this, like, wow, we're missing these people. I want to go. I want my community back. But if we can have this paradigm shift, if we can see that, like, society thinks of prisoners as they're the outcasts, they're the worst of the worst, and we have this media presentation, and it takes the ugliest parts that are dramatic and overly dramatizes them. You realize they're just people, and really there's some of them. I got to meet the guys who were part of the pro basketball program, so I meet the creme of the la creme, and they're all nice and they're on their good behavior there. I'm sure Brian can tell me there's some guys locked up that you don't want to hang out with, like, like, but it's complex. They're people. They're all types of people, but some of the most amazing people are there. And for me, some of the deepest relationships I've built have been there. And if now we can see, wow, like, their problem was actually this incredible, it can become an asset if we come alongside them and give them the right tools that they need. So Brian was on a certain trajectory, because of, his childhood trauma, his lack of community, and he was that bad, scary guy. He was that guy. Okay. He'd already turned around by the time I met him. And there's some other guys that, man, it's so amazing because you look at them physically and you're like, that guy would have been really scary, but he's not scary now because there's so much peace, so much joy. And like some of the guys that are the most emotionally sensitive, the most caring, and they're in this, they're tattooed up and they're jacked because they're in great shape, and it's like this contradiction. But if out of the problem can come the solution, wow, the opportunities that it opened up. And then even out of COVID, like for me, this crisis of the problem getting worse, so that then now you finally come and it flips to the solution. If we can push into that in society, wow, now we can really unlock this power of redemption that so maybe the incarcerated, I'm just using that as an example, maybe they have something to teach us. Maybe it's not a problem to be dealt with, but an asset to be mined. And if we can have that mentality into mentorship, that wow, the greatest asset we have are human beings. We're also our biggest problem. And if we can reach out and break these barriers, and we'll find gold in places that was unexpected, and there's so much of it. That's what's on my heart, if that makes sense.
That makes so much sense. It's such bold, very disruptive thinking, which this panel loves. And I also deeply appreciate you seem to be constantly looking at and expanding your own viewpoint on what is this ecosystem? Let me give consideration to all the parts, as many parts as possible, and not permit myself to get wedged into a very black and white, thinking and see more of the whole. Brian, I bet I'm not alone in being so curious. What are you working on at school right now? Did you say you're a film major, production major? I mean, you've already won your Emmy, as we learned. That's fabulous.
Mhm. Yeah, so I'm a cinema major and I'm in school to try to understand how this generation thinks, right? Because the films that I want to produce moving forward, I want to change mindsets of individuals that's incarcerated. I'm dealing with people who has a lot of trauma in their life.
Mhm.
I'm dealing with people that has drug addiction and mental illness. So if I can figure out how do I penetrate that, right? Then I think that I could change some perspectives of people because I understand how I was prior. And one of the things I want to say that stood out to me that what Naj said is about asking for help. She said she had to ask for help, and that was the hardest thing that she had to do. And I was like that before. I would never ask for help. And then wasn't until I learned how to ask for help was when my life started changing. So yeah, I really appreciate when she said that. That resonated with me a lot. So, but my next film right now is I have a story about a guy who he's the person who changed my mind, right? I believe in Voices Healed, and that's a program that I started inside of San Quentin because I heard a man tell his story. And so I want to tell that man's story, and hopefully I can, you know, change some mindsets.
Those of you that are tuning in right now, and maybe you've been thinking, gosh, I have some things to offer. I wonder if I should find a way, get involved with the mentoring club. Obviously it's global and offer to mentor someone. I think Brian and others on the panel, they're laying this out so clearly that being a good mentor does not mean you personally have all the answers. I think a theme that is surfacing is it's so valuable to listen, create safe space, and let the person know that you value their story. And I think through that, sometimes that sort of listening and safe space, it allows the person to excavate their own answers, their own ideas and solutions, and then it becomes more like a midwife, where you're just helping to shepherd them into what is their next creation. I want to pause for a moment and just inquire, do we have any questions that have come in for members of the panel? We all want to be very attentive to that.
This is Anika. I had a question. I was curious if you had any advice for someone looking to make a difference as a mentor in a new situation, in terms of how they could take the initiative and get started.
So for someone, Anika, who's willing to mentor a person?
Yes, but not
who's
in a
new
formal
situation?
mentorship program.
Okay. Okay, where to get started when you're the mentor? How do you start? Okay, this is great. I would love to hear from each one of the panelists because I can imagine you each might have a little different idea of how you would approach it.
Really clear on why you want to be a mentor. What do you want to get out of it? Just as a mentee should do that, as you as a mentor should do that. And also then when you're looking for someone, look for someone where you've got the same values, maybe not the same beliefs, but something where that challenges your beliefs. That's fantastic. But having that core relationship where you really do have the same morals, and that's why we're friends and when we connect with people. So I think that really helps you. If you know yourself what they are, then you can start being, your radar goes out, your brain will start looking for what you need. So, but it's just taking action. That's how you get lucky. Just take action.
Ooh, that's good. I love that. I love that. Okay, Naj, what would be your thoughts when you take on a protege? Where would you start?
I've started mentoring my team. So they're all in the Gen Z. So I try to probe more questions and get that out from them. Because when it's coming from them, then it's easier to help them, mentor them, and guide them to the next step or to the next level of their career. So I guess it's more of probing questions so that to help them somehow have that discovery for themselves during those, meetings.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Brian, what are your thoughts when you take on someone who's seeking support and guidance, and it's your first time you're going to sit down and have coffee? Where do you start?
I start by listening. I think that's the most important thing. What I found is people want to be heard. And if you can just be a good ear and lead by example, then that goes a long way. Because, yeah, just listening and leading by example.
For me, it was just, taking the first step to show up, absolutely listening. I'm trying to learn how to listen more and more. But praise God, I got a great mentor, my wife, who was relentless in helping me in that. And, I also think of some of my best mentors. It's, not the ones that had all the wisdom to tell me everything, but the ones that would just listen, you process externally, and then trying to flip that, realize, well, people, there's, like if you listen, you give them that emotional safety, and then, you're not really doing anything, but then they realize they're getting so much value out of it because and then the other thing I'd add to it is just add, like keep learning. Like I love what Brian said by lead by example. That's something like, I try not to give advice until people ask for it. And then particularly, I mean, we're talking about people I'm really close to, like my wife, particularly my children. Okay. Am I asking them to do something? Am I doing that myself? Because maybe I don't know what I think I know. Like, am I actually doing that? And And then you add to that this ability to learn, like asking, can I actually do that? And then you press into, okay, what am I actually trying to do? How does that apply to me? Like, and then can I do that? And then like, so maybe what I'm saying is just completely BS. So I need to throw it out. Or maybe there's a nugget of truth there that I've got to press into. And I have just found that when you lead by example, when you actually know something and you're actually doing it, you don't even have to talk about it. Well,
Yeah.
or you can't stop talking about it because people won't let you show up. It won't let you shut up. And it just naturally happens. Others imitate you, and you've actually locked into something because you truly know it.
Yeah, I'm going to paraphrase here, but I believe it was Ralph Waldo Emerson. He's quoted as saying, I can't hear you because your actions are speaking so loud.
I love that quote.
Also, I wanted to add something to this, the answer to the question, as somebody who ran a formal mentor program and teaches mentorship at the university level and wrote a book on mentorship. I think it's very wise in an early meeting when you're creating a mentor relationship to talk about confidentiality, just be explicit with one another that you want to hold confidence for what is exchanged, right? And then also, thank you, Ted, touched upon something I think is not obvious. And that is, don't just give advice. Definitely don't just give advice. I think you could set up some rules of engagement in the relationship where, sometimes we just need to vent, just sort of need to get something off our chest. And then often when we're able to do that and we're receiving understanding, we kind of percolate up our own solutions. But of course, in a mentorship relationship, and frankly, I do this all the time. I will sit someone down whose opinion I value, and I will say, I have a situation. If I may, I'd like to lay out my situation, and I'm going to tell you what I see. And then please, I want you to tell me, what am I not seeing? Help me to, get a bigger, broader view. So I tend to be really explicit with when I do want advice, when I am actively seeking input, which is, frequently, right? But I think that would be very good to iron out in a new mentoring relationship. Like, how do you want to structure conversation, keeping those confidences, and really just anything else that will help to break the ice and create, as something we've been talking about throughout the panel, that safety and the security. Because look, it's like a garden of beautiful plants and flowers. What can grow from it? Annika, does that help you?
Yeah, this was great. Thank you for everybody's perspectives.
Oh, that's beautiful. All right. Are there other
Lisa?
questions that are coming in for the panel?
Yes, I see Lisa has posted a question.
All right.
I'll read it out. When you don't relate or agree with the guidance your mentor shared with you, how do you address it with each other?
I'm going to share one of my most important mentee relationships with my son. And when he was 17, he had this courageous conversation with me about how I smother him with encouragement. So I was never, you know, I was never authoritarian like that, but like that's not my style at all. But he's like, you don't give me any space, and it's all positive, it's all encouraging, it's all. So you got to trust me though. You got to trust that that I've heard this stuff, and I don't need you repeating it over and over and over again unless I want you to repeat it. And so I had a little crisis there. Part of it is my son's pushing me back, and that hurts your pride, and I've got to suck it up, and like, you stupid little punk, it can remind me of Mark Twain, he said that when I was 16, I thought my old man didn't know anything. He was so stupid. By the time I turned 20, I was impressed by all that the guy had learned in those 4 years. Okay, I want to. But then the other side of me, I said, wow, I have raised, I wanted to raise free thinkers. I didn't want them to just take it for granted. I do not believe in this mentorship, this top down, ivory tower, kiss the ring, a beautiful manna from heaven coming down from the higher up. I don't believe in that. No. I wanted my children to push back, and here's this 17-year-old kid who I know deep inside he really admires. He's still the kid that just admires me. I'm like his hero, and he's courageous enough, and I've empowered him enough to push back and to create space for himself. So it's like, oh wow. So I had to press into that, this humility, and like, okay, so I've been bad, but I've also raised up someone. I've done also and often something really good because when he's 17, he's able to speak something that took me. I was probably in my 30s before I had that sort of awareness, or was that courage to push back on the people that I admired and say, listen, I've got to think for myself and make my own decisions. I can't just. So that's how I would say you deal with it. One, as a mentor, and I put this on the mentor, like you have got to empower them to make their own decisions and don't have this top down,
Yeah.
stuff. And that's really hard when you're managing them or an employee. But you're going to get far more out of them if you build them up. And then as the mentee, I would say one, set that as the groundwork. You want someone who's going to listen to you and care about you, and don't sell yourself short by and if this is a control freak, like run away from that. But like you've got to work that through, and then if you can both see it as an opportunity for growth, wow, okay. That's
Yeah.
when that's where your disagreements are the best thing. Okay, let's dive into this deeper so we can both learn more.
I love it. Wonderful. We just have a couple more minutes left. Is there another question for the panel?
Could I just give an answer to that? Because I think sometimes when we're in those relationships, especially at work, when we don't agree, I think in the personal ones, when we've got that, it's it's different. But sometimes at work, we want to show that empathy and we want to show that we're a mentor, and you don't agree with what they're saying, right? And you're not going to change what you're doing. But I think being able to listen again and validate. So what I'm hearing is this is what you want. Just saying that you heard what they said is really one of the best ways, whether it's you're a mentor speaking back to your mentee talking back to your mentor, or the other way around. Just saying, this is what I heard. I just want to make sure that I did hear that correctly. And then you can say, you know what, that sucks. I'm not doing that. But it's really making sure that that person does still get that validation of, this was a safe place for you to share that anyway. Thank you for sharing.
Right.
And then we get to choose how we react or what we do with it. So that's a sort of tool if you're in the workplace. When you're emotionally connected, it's slightly more difficult.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's wonderful. And sometimes a piece of advice, it's just not the right timing. So that's something else too. You could say, thank you. I am going to consider that. I'm not sure if it's something I would do right now, but I really appreciate what you're suggesting. And I'm going to keep it in mind. It might be something I implement down the road, Naj.
This is a very interesting discussion about, if you're not agreeing with each other. Because as someone who used to react a lot, I just, I realize in our mentoring sessions with my mentoring sessions with Lisa that, we have biases. And sometimes it's, you need time to process it. And from what she shared, and I'm still in the process of, it's a work in progress, in process of like trying to hear and not really take it, that the advice at that moment, but really take time to process.
Yeah.
I think that would also help with with the disagreeing part of the mentoring relationship.
Yeah. Very nice. Thank you. Thank you.
Something that I do is if I was in a position to offer my opinion on whatever the subject may be, I would ask permission to offer that. I would ask them, is are you open for suggestions? I won't just indulge in what I think they should do. I would ask permission. So if anybody's in a situation where they're mentoring someone, ask them if they're open for feedback.
Yeah. Thank you. Wow. That is powerful. Allowing the choice for the person, because then the metaphor sometimes I will use is if they're not in the mood to hear it, it's sort of like you're tossing them a ball, but their catcher's mitt is closed or it's in the trunk of their car. They're not open to hear it. So thank you, everyone on this panel. It's been such a pleasure. I feel as though I have dined on a rich 7-course meal. This has been super nutritious and just utterly wonderful. So, Annika, I'll turn it back over to you.
Before we wrap up, I'd like to extend a heartfelt thank you to our generous panelists, Naj Sargoza, Ted Haas, Lisa Galea, Brian Gonsolin, and our amazing panel moderator, Laurie Creever. Your insights have truly made this session valuable, and you've given us a reason to pause for reflections. We appreciate the time and effort you've dedicated to sharing your knowledge with us today. Let's all give a virtual round of applause to our panel speakers and moderator. And I'd like to get your attention to the slides and encourage survey participation. We value your feedback in completing the session surveys to help us improve and continue delivering impactful events. As a thank you, you'll receive 1 month of free mentee subscription to the Mentoring Club for every session survey completed. For example, 8 completed surveys equal to 6 months free, and a discount code will be sent to you a few days after the event, and you can use it for yourself or gift it. Plus, the first 10 respondents will receive exclusive giveaways, including the Mentoring Club t-shirts, luggage tags, and caps. As supplies last, shipping limitations may apply to Oceania, Africa, and Asia due to higher costs. Thank you for helping us make a difference. If you're loving today's session, please take the next step and become a mentor or mentee. Scan the QR code to join the Mentoring Club and make a lasting impact. If you're ready to dive deeper into leadership development, join our premium workshops for in-depth multi-session learning experiences over the coming months. These workshops build on this summit's workshops insights and are designed to help you grow as a leader. Scan the QR code to learn more, and when you sign up today, you get a 25% discount using the promo code LFS 2026-WKP. You can get the VIP pass for on-demand access to all event recordings after the summit. It's perfect for rewatching your favorite sessions or catching up on the ones you missed. We are offering the VIP pass for $13 for 13 sessions. And to celebrate our 10th anniversary with you, we're extending a 10% discount when you subscribe to the VIP pass today. Simply scan the QR code. In just a moment, we'll play a special video introduction about the Mentoring Club. In this video, we'll provide you with a deeper understanding of TMC's vision, mission, core values, and insights from our mentees, mentors, volunteers, donors, and supporters. I'll remain here as your host, so if you have any questions or need assistance, don't hesitate to reach out. Let's make the most of this time to connect and learn more about the purposeful work TMC is doing.
What has been the biggest challenge you've faced as an entrepreneur, and how did your leadership style help you overcome it?
Wow, that's a really good one. Probably the greatest challenge being an artist is financial resources. When you're an artist, you have to put so much time into developing skill set, and that never ends. You can become the greatest, fastest piano, whatever it is in your art form in a singular moment, but if you don't maintain that skill set, which requires hours of time, then your skills will decline. It is just a fact. Any athlete, any musician, any singer, any artist, that's just the nature of the field, is that we have to feed it on a regular basis. And unfortunately, unless you're in a system where the government supports artists, there's nobody pays you to do that skill development, but it's still required on top of whatever you do to feed yourself until you get to the point where you've converted your art form into feeding you with enough financial resources. Because that's the other thing too, musicians in particular and dancers, on your day-to-day gigs, on your regular jobs, you're so vastly underpaid that very few people can break out of the cycle and get to the point where their art literally feeds them, provides a place to live. So that's the greatest challenge as an artist, because those of us who love it, we put in the time. I will happily practice for 10 hours a day or write or arrange or whatever. And I do that endlessly in my work. But then we always have to try to figure out another way. How do I convert all of that work into sufficient income? Because trust me, venues want to pay you $100, which at least in California is not going to do very much when you consider it's 6 hours of your life, maybe 7, to do a single gig. When you packing it up, doing the rehearsals, doing the gig, packing back up again, chasing down your money. Sometimes venues don't pay you correctly. That's probably the biggest challenge. And my leadership skills that have helped me to overcome it are looking big picture. Looking at what is the value I'm providing to the audience? What is the emotional catharsis that I'm providing so that they'll want to think I'm feeling a particular emotion? What resonates that? Victoria's music, Victoria's playing. And so that's where we can do it. It's not easy to do because there's an ocean of music available now, thanks to Spotify and these other free services. But it is possible.
Hi, my name is Emily Hu, and I am a leader. Not because that's my title, but because people trust me with hard problems. I lead forward by doing the work first. I build, I test, I fail fast, and I tell the truth about what I learn, whether it's engineering, clinical operations, investing, or professional sports. I don't ask others to take risks that I haven't taken myself. I mentor by raising standards and supporting at the same time. I don't lower the bar to make things comfortable. I help people to build the skill, judgment, and confidence to clear it. I believe leadership is about leverage, not control. My job is to see patterns early, remove friction, and give people clarity so that they can move faster than they thought possible. I lead with accountability and I lead with experience. If something works, the team gets credit. If something fails, I own it and we fix it. And I lead by investing in people before they're obvious bets. The future isn't built by perfect resumes. It's built by capable people who are willing to learn, adapt, and act. That is how I lead. Forward with purpose and with others, not ahead of them.
In 1998, an epiphany led me to the goal of transitioning my career from the Philippines to Silicon Valley. 2 years later, I met with people in the Valley to find a job. The dot-com bubble was bursting. I didn't get a job, but I met over 150 people. In 2002, 3 of my contacts hired me. I joined their internet consulting company. 8 years later, I became Chief Operating Officer and part owner, then exited in 2020 to focus on the Mentoring Club, my give back passion project. The Mentoring Club connects working people to accomplished leaders for leadership development mentoring. With a growing community of hundreds of mentors, mentees, volunteers, donors, and partners globally, we are changing the world one leader at a time.
What is my vision for the Mentoring Club? When I started the Mentoring Club in 2016, I declared that our mission is to provide a mentoring community for young leaders. When we launched, not only young leaders signed up, mid-career people and advanced career people signed up. And so we evolved our mission to provide a mentoring community for aspiring and seasoned leaders, where seasoned leaders refer to both the mentors and the mentees. Today, anywhere in the world, we help working people find mentors who can guide them to develop the skills they need to achieve their career and life goals. We help mentees fulfill their goals through meaningful work that creates positive impact in the world. We believe that when we're doing meaningful work, That's when the leaders in us come out because we care about the results. And when we care about the results, then that is how we can make a positive impact in the world. Ultimately, my vision is that as mentees become successful leaders, my dream is for them to become mentors to others. And that's how the cycle of giving back can continue, hopefully without end, hopefully even long after I'm gone. One of the ways we attract people into the mentoring club is to share our leadership core values. Our anchor values are trust, leadership, and community. Under trust, we believe that integrity, honesty, and commitment are what make us trustworthy as individuals and professionals. Under leadership, we believe that health, vision, and execution are all needed to be successful leaders. One without the others pretty much leads to nothing. We have to have all of them. And it is understandable that not all of us will be great at both visioning and execution. So if you're great at visioning, find somebody to help you execute. And if you're great at execution, find somebody whose vision you can support and help execute. That way, both of you can become successful leaders. And the last anchor value, community. Under community, we believe that humanity, contentment, family are the social grounding forces that make us feel fulfilled and happy. At the end of the day, even though we're successful as leaders, if we don't have anybody to share that success with, then it will be a lonely success. And so we encourage everybody to think about their values. And if those values align with ours, then this may be just the right community to be a part of.
What is the mystery to life? It's fulfillment. Feelings come and go. Values kind of get you through the pain. They get you through the good times. They get you through a lot of things, but they are a higher level of consciousness and meaning.
Better you, a better me makes a better world. If we could take the time to maybe reflect, on it, it can be used as a powerful tool to help us to intentionally grow. When we see growth in areas where maybe we are going to learn a skill, seek mentorship, develop ourselves, learn a new language, take daily walks, we can grow ourselves, and then through that, we can motivate others to also grow. We can support each other at the workplace. We can motivate each other. We can share knowledge, and together we can build. Let's take our communities where people have grown themselves. We can do that, help our communities, our neighbors, and our families. So growth is ingrained in this phrase, a better you, a better me, makes a better world.
Hi, my name is Daria Tahiri. One of my core values that I would like to talk today about is don't take things personally. Many years ago, I adopted this from the book of 4 Agreements by Dr. Miguel Ruiz. By practicing this, I feel that I'm empowered. My energy can be spent in more important areas rather than thinking why the person said that way or why he or she acted this way. Another agreement says, ask questions, don't make any assumptions. The combination of these both values helped me tremendously go through life. It's a hard practice. I might not be able to be successful every day, but at least I'm conscious about it and I am practicing it every day and I get better at it every day. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Massimo Thoni and I am here very excited to share with you my journey as a mentee in the mentoring club. I am happy that I can be able to share my experience. I am part of the people that are really benefiting from this. So I got the chance and the privilege to be mentored by the CEO, Lizel. It has been a transformative journey. I have learned a lot of skills from leadership to resilience to communication and a lot more things that I've learned from her, and I am really grateful. And one of the core values that I will speak about today is resilience. The mentorship has really deepened my understanding on resilience. It has shown me on how to adapt and to be flexible and how to stay focused no matter what challenges comes my way. I also learned that resilience is not just about bouncing back whenever you're faced with a backlash or a certain challenging situation. It is also about coming out stronger and better than the way you were before the challenge came. So this mentorship really has been a game changer for me, and I have grown a lot in ways that I could not imagine. I have advanced in my career, I've advanced in my projects, and also my dealing with other people. I am deeply grateful to Liesel and the Mentoring Club for this opportunity. The journey has been of growth, learning, and self discovery, and I can't wait to apply everything I've learned to make a meaningful impact in my community. So, thank you so much for this incredible experience, and have a great event.
Hi, I am Idowolawai. I am a mentor in the Mentoring Club. One of my values is humanity. What does humanity mean to me? Humanity is about building connection and fostering a sense of belonging. It emphasizes the importance of community and the collective well-being of society. In essence, making humanity a core value means embracing the qualities that make a genuinely human, our ability to care, connect, grow, and act with integrity. It's about seeing the inherent worth in every person and striving to make the world a better place for all.